Hello, and thank you for downloading. My name's Steve Johnson, and this is the Inquests and Inquiries podcast. Hi, and welcome to this special episode about maternity care and issues and perinatal care in general. This has been inspired by a phenomenal meeting I had where I was listening to an organisation within the NHS which has generated a maternity and perinatal deaths recommendations tracker. There's a huge number of reports, particularly across time, that have provided a phenomenal number of recommendations. That's difficult to manage. They've produced a really good tracker, link in the notes to the show, which allows you to filter by your particular interest area and, really importantly, allows you to download spreadsheets of the recommendations from those reports and links back to those original reports. This is a really good example of best practice and how to gather together and maintain recommendations. Notably as well, and this is not an area that I have expertise in, but listening to those that did within the meeting, it was really interesting to see that the tracker had clinical input as well. So it wasn't just throwing recommendations into a tracker. There was a process of clinical review as well, which was helpful. Helpful but balanced. It's not second guessing these recommendations or inquiries. The inspiration from that was to look at the reports that were cited, and over 59 sources were downloaded from their tracker. And I decided to see whether or not artificial intelligence could make much of this. Now, the previous trackers and shows that I've looked at have only used a couple of reports in order to really focus the large language model. So I was a little uncertain about how this would work. However, I have to say, this has been quite interesting. I asked the model to specifically look at trying to interpret these very technical reports for someone without a medical background. And I also tried to look at cross-linking themes between the actual reports and trends over time. Let's see what you think about it, and really interested to hear your comments about it.
All right, everyone, get ready for a deep dive today. We're tackling a topic that's probably on a lot of your minds, maternity care in the UK.
Yeah.
We're not skimming the surface here. We've got government reports, research papers, you name it, even some confidential inquiries to really get into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, it's fascinating, actually. These sources span over 2 decades. So we're looking at a pretty long view of how things have been working, the good, the bad, and, well, the areas that need a bit more attention.
Exactly. We're cutting through all the medical jargon and statistics to get to what really matters. What can you expect when you're starting a family in the UK? What should you be aware of? And the big question, are things actually getting better?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And to start, we need to look at the big picture. Overall, maternal mortality rates in the UK have been going down since the 1980s, which is definitely a positive sign.
That is reassuring to hear.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing it's not the whole story.
You got it. While the overall trend is positive, there have been some red flags popping up lately, particularly an uptick in deaths happening between 6 weeks and a year after childbirth.
Wow, that's well after what we usually think of as the postpartum period. What's the deal there?
That's the concerning part. The leading cause of death at that stage is actually maternal suicide, with psychiatric causes accounting for a large chunk of these deaths.
So it's not just about physical recovery after giving birth, but the mental and emotional side of things. And those challenges can last way longer than those first few weeks. That's something everyone supporting a new parent should really keep in mind.
Couldn't agree more. It really highlights the need for mental health support to continue long after leaving the hospital. And it's something new parents need to be aware of for themselves, too.
Definitely. And speaking of things to be aware of, one statistic from these reports really stood out to me. A pretty significant number of stillbirths and newborn deaths. We're talking 78% and 79% respectively. Involve situations where better care might have made a difference.
Yeah, that's a tough one to swallow. It suggests that while we've made progress, preventable tragedies are still happening. And that's where we need to focus our energy.
Okay, so we're seeing this mixed bag. Some improvements, but clear areas where the system is falling short. What kind of patterns are we seeing across these reports? What are the common threads?
One biggie that keeps coming up is communication breakdown. And we're not just talking about healthcare professionals being rude to each other, although let's be honest, that does happen sometimes. It's more about a lack of clear communication between providers. And most importantly, between providers and patients.
So what does that actually look like? How does this communication breakdown actually affect people's experiences?
Imagine going through labor and feeling like your concerns aren't being heard, or not really understanding the risks and benefits of a procedure. Or even worse, getting conflicting information from different people on the care team. These situations can be incredibly stressful and confusing, especially at such a vulnerable time.
Yeah, it sounds like it could also be dangerous if crucial information isn't being passed along properly or concerns are dismissed.
You hit the nail on the head. Clear communication is absolutely essential for informed consent, for catching potential problems early, and ultimately for making sure both mother and baby are safe.
So it's not just about being polite, it's about making sure everyone's on the same page and feels like they can speak up.
Exactly. And unfortunately, these reports are telling us that's not always happening. There's a case, for instance, where a woman tragically died after being misdiagnosed with the pulmonary embolism, when it turned out she actually had a ruptured ectopic pregnancy.
Oh, wow. That's a very serious misdiagnosis. What happened there? Was it a communication issue?
Well, it seems like a few things went wrong, but communication was definitely a factor. They didn't properly investigate her symptoms, and there were delays in getting the right tests done, which led to her getting the wrong treatment.
That's heartbreaking. And it really drives home the importance of clear communication and quick action in emergencies.
Absolutely. It shows how crucial it is to have systems in place to make sure the right information is shared, and shared quickly, among the care team, and that patient concerns are taken seriously and thoroughly investigated.
This brings us to another theme that pops up in the reports: missed opportunities for learning. They seem to be saying that even when investigations happen, the lessons learned aren't always applied to prevent similar incidents down the line.
It's like seeing a problem but not actually fixing it. You can admit something went wrong, but if you don't make real changes, it's bound to happen again.
Right, it's one thing to say we messed up, but it's a whole other thing to actually change procedures, training, even the culture of a hospital to prevent those mistakes from happening again.
Exactly. And the reports give a pretty stark example of this with the Morecambe Bay investigation back in 2015.
What happened there?
There were a series of tragic events at the hospital, and while they did make some leadership changes after the investigation, it seems like deeper systemic issues were never really addressed.
So even with a major shakeup, the underlying problems weren't fully fixed.
It shows how we need a more holistic approach to improvement. It's not just about individuals, it's about the entire system working together to ensure safety and quality.
So it's not enough to just point fingers or make a few surface-level changes. You really need to take a deep dive into the systems and processes that are allowing these problems to slip through.
Exactly. And another area where the reports point to systemic issues is the lack of personalized care. They found inconsistencies in using specialist midwives and sonographers in twin pregnancies, which are inherently higher risk.
So in situations where you really need that extra expertise, it's not always there.
That's a major concern. And they also found a lack of documentation about discussions on the specific risks of multiple pregnancies.
So even if the specialists are involved, there's no guarantee parents are fully informed about the potential risks.
That's what it seems like. And this is especially concerning because having all the information is so important. It lets parents make informed decisions about their care and their baby's health.
It sounds like this lack of personalized care is about recognizing that each pregnancy is unique, and a one-size-fits-all approach just won't cut it.
You got it. It's about tailoring care to each person's circumstances and risks, and the reports suggest we still have work to do there.
Let's dig into some specific areas that pose particular challenges. The reports highlight cardiac issues during pregnancy as a leading cause of maternal death.
That's a crucial area to focus on. It really underlines how important it is to have thorough cardiac assessments, both during and after pregnancy.
There's a case study in the reports that really highlights this. A woman died from Eisenmenger syndrome, which is a serious heart condition, but it was initially misdiagnosed as preeclampsia, a common pregnancy complication.
Right, and that case just shows why we need those thorough cardiac assessments, especially when a woman has symptoms that could have multiple causes.
So what should someone listening who might be worried about their heart health during pregnancy do?
If you have any pre-existing heart conditions, or if you develop new symptoms during pregnancy, Don't hesitate to push for a full evaluation. It's always better to be safe than sorry.
Absolutely. Advocate for yourself, ask questions, and make sure your concerns are being heard.
And don't be afraid to get a second opinion if you're not confident in the care you're getting.
Now let's switch gears and talk about cancer during pregnancy. Obviously, that adds another layer of complexity to an already delicate situation.
The reports highlight cases where cancer diagnosis and treatment were delayed during pregnancy, which raises concerns about the guidance and the timeliness of referrals in those complex cases.
So it's not always clear what the best course of action is when you're dealing with both a pregnancy and a cancer diagnosis.
It's a tough spot to be in, and the reports acknowledge that. They say we need better support and guidance for both patients and providers in these situations.
One specific recommendation that stood out to me was for women with breast cancer to wait at least 2 years after treatment before trying to conceive if possible.
That's a tough recommendation to make, because it means weighing the risks and benefits of delaying pregnancy against the potential impact on cancer treatment and the chances of it coming back. It's not a decision to be taken lightly.
It's about finding that balance between managing the cancer and respecting a woman's reproductive choices.
Absolutely, and that's why clear and personalized information is so crucial. Women need all the facts about the potential risks and benefits, so they can make the best choice for themselves and their families.
Which brings us back to how important clear communication and shared decision-making are between patients and providers.
Exactly, and it's especially important in these complex situations where there are no easy answers.
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of communication, personalized care, and learning from past mistakes. Are there any other major themes popping up from these reports?
One that jumps out is the need for faster and more accurate diagnoses, especially in emergencies.
Right, we talked about that earlier with a misdiagnosed ectopic pregnancy.
That case, and others in the reports, really highlight how important it is to have clear protocols and quick diagnostic tools, especially when time is of the essence.
It's a stark reminder that even with all the advanced medical technology we have, we still heavily rely on human judgment and the ability to quickly and accurately interpret clinical data.
Exactly. And that's where good communication, training, and a culture of safety all come in.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, and it's clear there are some serious challenges facing maternity care in the UK. But I'm hoping there are also some signs of progress, some glimmers of hope amidst all these concerns.
Oh, there are definitely positive developments to highlight. One area where we've seen significant progress is data collection. The quality and completeness of maternal mortality reporting have gotten much better, which gives us a much clearer picture of how big the problem really is.
That's good to hear. Because if you don't know how big the problem is, you can't effectively target interventions or measure progress, right?
Precisely. Better data lets us spot trends, zero in on problem areas, and track the effects of the changes we make. It's essential for making informed decisions and driving real improvement.
So better data is a step in the right direction. Are there any specific initiatives or programs out there making a positive impact?
There are a few. The NHS Resolution's early notification scheme is relatively new. It aims to provide faster and fairer resolution for claims related to maternity and neonatal care.
So if something does go wrong, families have a more streamlined process for seeking support and resolution.
Exactly. While this doesn't address the root causes of harm, it can provide quicker support and closure for families who've experienced a tragedy, and it helps gather valuable information about what went wrong, which can then be used to make system-wide improvements.
It's a step toward a more compassionate and accountable system. Are there any other initiatives focused on preventing these tragedies from happening in the first place?
Absolutely. The Each Baby Counts project is another great example. It's actively working to reduce preventable stillbirths, neonatal deaths, and brain injuries.
How does it work? What makes this project so promising?
What's really encouraging is the focus on parent involvement. We've seen a big jump in the number of parents taking part in local reviews of these tragic events.
So it's about bringing parents into the process of figuring out what went wrong and where to improve.
Exactly. Their voices are essential in learning from these events and making meaningful changes. They provide a unique perspective that you just can't get from medical records alone.
It's about recognizing that parents are the experts on their own experiences, and that their insights are invaluable for improving care for everyone.
Precisely. And it's a good sign that the system is becoming more inclusive and responsive to the needs and perspectives of families.
Okay, so even with all the challenges we've talked about, there are signs of progress. The UK system is becoming more aware of the need for better communication, more personalized care, and consistently learning from past mistakes.
It's an ongoing process, and there's still a lot of work to be done. But it's important to acknowledge those positive developments. They give us hope that we can continue to make childbirth safer and more supportive for all women and families in the UK.
And that's where you come in. This deep dive has focused on the systems and the statistics. But what about the human stories behind those numbers? What can you do to advocate for your own health and safety during pregnancy and childbirth?
That's a powerful question for all of us to think about. It's about being informed, asking questions, and speaking up for yourself and your baby.
It's about recognizing that you have a voice and a choice in your own care.
And remember, knowledge is power. The more you understand about the system, the risks and benefits of different interventions, and your own individual needs, the better equipped you'll be to navigate this journey.
Hopefully this deep dive has given you a solid starting point for those conversations. Now, part two, we're going to shift gears a bit. We'll talk more about what you can do to be your own best advocate during pregnancy and childbirth. We'll dive into some practical tips and resources to help you feel more empowered and informed throughout this incredible journey. So stay tuned. Welcome back. In part one, we really got into the current state of maternity care in the UK, exploring both the progress that's been made and the challenges that still exist. Now, let's shift our focus to you. What does all this mean for your own pregnancy journey? How can you be your own best advocate?
That's a great question. It's important to remember that even within a system as big as the NHS, you have a voice and a choice in how your care is managed.
Exactly. So let's get practical. What are some concrete steps you can take to feel more confident and informed? During your pregnancy and childbirth,
First things first. Find a healthcare provider you trust and feel comfortable talking to. This could be your GP, a midwife, or an obstetrician. The key is having someone you can openly discuss your concerns with, ask questions, and feel heard.
okay, so finding that right fit is essential. But what if something just feels off during your care? What if you have a gut feeling that something's not right?
Don't ignore those instincts. It's perfectly okay to get a second opinion. Or ask for more tests if you think you need them. You know your body better than anyone.
That's so important. Don't be afraid to speak up. What about preparing for appointments? Is there anything people can do beforehand to make the most of their time with their provider?
Absolutely. Writing down your questions in advance can be incredibly helpful. That way you don't forget anything important in the moment. It can also be useful to bring a friend or family member along for support and to help you remember what was discussed afterwards.
That's a great tip. Having that extra support can really make a difference, especially during those appointments that can feel a bit overwhelming. We talked earlier about the importance of personalized care. How can someone make sure they're getting care that's tailored to their individual needs and circumstances?
That's where being proactive comes in. Be open and honest with your healthcare provider about your medical history, any pre-existing conditions, and any concerns you might have. The more information they have, the better they can personalize your care plan.
So it's all about open communication. Don't hold back. Share everything that's relevant.
Exactly, and pregnancy is not the time to be shy or try to tough things out. If you're experiencing any unusual symptoms or something just doesn't feel right, speak up.
Let's talk about some specific situations. We discussed cardiac issues earlier. What should someone do if they have a pre-existing heart condition or develop new cardiac symptoms during pregnancy?
In those cases, it's absolutely crucial to have a thorough cardiac assessment, and you want to have it done early. Don't hesitate to ask for a referral to a cardiologist, specifically one who specializes in pregnancy-related heart conditions.
So don't just settle for a general assessment. Make sure you're getting that specialized expertise.
Exactly, and be your own advocate. If you feel like your concerns aren't being addressed properly, don't be afraid to get a second opinion.
What about those really tough situations where pregnancy and a cancer diagnosis collide? What advice would you give to someone navigating that complex territory?
First and foremost, remember that you're not alone. These situations are incredibly difficult, but there is support out there. Look for specialists who have experience managing both pregnancy and cancer. And don't be afraid to ask for a multidisciplinary team approach to your care.
That sounds really important. Having a team of experts who can work together and provide holistic care must make a huge difference.
It really does. And it's important to remember that every situation is unique. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. The best approach will depend on the type and stage of the cancer, the stage of the pregnancy, and your own personal preferences.
So it's about gathering information, weighing the options, and making the decision that feels right for you and your family.
Precisely. And don't be afraid to stand up for your needs and preferences throughout the entire process.
Okay, so we've talked about finding the right healthcare provider, being proactive with communication, and advocating for specialized care when you need it. What other practical tips can empower someone during their pregnancy journey?
Information is power. Take the time to educate yourself about the different stages of pregnancy, common complications, and the various options for labor and delivery.
There are so many resources available, but it can be overwhelming to know where to begin. Do you have any recommendations?
The NHS website is a great place to start. It's got reliable and up-to-date information on all sorts of pregnancy-related topics. There are also tons of great books, podcasts, and online communities dedicated to pregnancy and childbirth.
So it's about finding sources you trust and feel good about. And remember, it's okay to be picky. Not every piece of advice or information you come across will be accurate or relevant to you.
That's where having that trusted healthcare provider is so valuable. They can help you sift through all the noise and guide you toward resources that are right for you.
Another thing that struck me from those reports was the importance of mental health support. During and after pregnancy, what advice would you give to someone struggling with anxiety, depression, or other mental health challenges during this time?
Don't suffer in silence. Reach out for help. Talk to your healthcare provider, your midwife, or your GP. They can connect you with resources like counseling or support groups.
It's so important to remember that you're not alone in this. Many women experience mental health challenges during pregnancy and postpartum, and there's absolutely no shame in seeking support.
Absolutely. And there are effective treatments available, so don't hesitate to advocate for your mental health needs, just like you would for any other aspect of your care.
We've talked a lot about advocating for yourself and seeking support from healthcare professionals. But what about building your support network outside of the medical setting?
That's a fantastic point. Surround yourself with people who uplift and support you. This could be your partner, family members, friends, or even other expectant parents.
Having that network of people who understand what you're going through can make a world of difference.
Absolutely. It's a time to lean on your loved ones and let them help you through the challenges and celebrate the joys of this amazing journey.
What about those first few weeks and months after childbirth? What advice would you give to someone navigating that often overwhelming postpartum period?
Be kind to yourself. You've just been through an incredible physical and emotional experience. Give yourself time to rest, recover, and adjust to this new chapter in your life.
It's time for self-care and for bonding with your baby.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask for help with practical things like cooking, cleaning, or taking care of older children.
Delegating tasks is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of wisdom.
Absolutely. Remember, you're not expected to be a superhero. It takes a village to raise a child. Accept help when it's offered, and don't be afraid to ask for it when you need it.
We've talked a lot about advocating for yourself and seeking support from others. But what about trusting your own instincts?
That's probably the most important advice of all. You are the expert on your own body and your own baby.
Trust that inner voice. If something feels wrong, it probably is.
Exactly. Don't dismiss those gut feelings. Pay attention to your body's signals. And if you have any concerns, reach out to your healthcare provider.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground, from finding the right healthcare provider to building a support network, to trusting your own instincts. Any final words of wisdom for those about to embark on this incredible journey?
Enjoy the ride, even with all the ups and downs. Pregnancy and childbirth are transformative experiences. Embrace the changes, celebrate the milestones, and be present in each moment.
That's beautiful advice. Remember, you are stronger than you think, and you are absolutely capable of handling whatever challenges come your way.
And don't forget to find those moments of joy amidst the chaos. Celebrate the little wins, cherish the special moments, and remember that you're creating something truly amazing.
As we wrap up part 2, I just want to remind you that this conversation doesn't end here. In part 3, we'll explore some final thoughts about the future of maternity care in the UK, and we'll leave you with some resources and tools to continue your own exploration of this important topic. So stay tuned. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into maternity care in the UK. We've covered a lot, from the challenges facing the system to practical tips for navigating your own pregnancy journey. Now, let's step back for a moment and talk about the bigger picture. What does the future hold for maternity care in the UK?
Well, that's a big question. But one thing's for sure, from the reports we've been discussing, there's a growing awareness that we need systemic change. We're seeing a push for more personalized care, better communication, and a real focus on learning from past mistakes.
That's encouraging. Are there any specific areas where you see the biggest potential for positive change in the years to come?
One area I'm really excited about is the growing focus on continuity of care. This basically means having a consistent team of healthcare providers throughout your pregnancy and postpartum journey.
So instead of seeing a different midwife or doctor at every appointment, you'd have a dedicated team who knows you and your needs.
Exactly. And studies have shown that this model leads to better outcomes, fewer interventions, and happier patients.
It makes sense. Having that consistent relationship and knowing your care team is familiar with your history must make a huge difference.
It really does. Another area with great potential is the integration of technology into maternity care.
Oh, that's interesting. How can technology help improve the experience for pregnant women and their families?
The possibilities are endless. Take telehealth, for example. It can offer more flexibility and make care more accessible, especially for those in rural areas or with limited mobility.
So virtual appointments and remote monitoring could be a game changer for some people.
Absolutely. We're also seeing the development of apps and online platforms that provide personalized information, support, and even connect expectant parents with each other.
Sounds like technology could be really powerful for empowering people and creating a more connected and supported experience. But what about the human element? How do we make sure technology enhances the human connection in maternity care instead of replacing it?
That's a really important point. It's crucial that we use technology thoughtfully and ethically, with a focus on supporting human interaction, not eliminating it.
So no robots delivering babies. It's about finding ways for technology to help both patients and healthcare providers.
Exactly. Technology can streamline tasks, improve communication, and make information easier to access. But it should never replace the empathy, compassion, and human touch that are so essential for quality maternity care.
Well said. As we wrap up this deep dive, what are your final thoughts on what gives you hope for the future of maternity care in the UK?
What gives me hope is the growing understanding that maternity care is about more than just medical procedures. It's about supporting the whole person, physically, emotionally, and mentally.
It's about recognizing that pregnancy and childbirth are life-changing experiences that deserve to be treated with respect, sensitivity, and a deep understanding of individual needs.
Exactly. And that message is gaining traction within the healthcare system. We're seeing a shift towards a more holistic, patient-centered approach, and that's definitely something to be optimistic about.
It's been amazing exploring this topic with you, and I hope our listeners feel empowered and informed to navigate their own pregnancy and childbirth experiences. Any final words of advice or inspiration for those starting on this incredible journey?
Trust yourselves, trust your bodies, and build a strong support team around you. You're stronger than you think, and you can create something truly amazing.
Beautifully said. And remember, knowledge is power. We've only scratched the surface here, but there are so many resources out there to help you learn more and advocate for the care you deserve.
We've included some links in the show notes to organizations, websites, and resources that can help you continue your own deep dive.
We've also added a glossary of terms to help clear up any medical jargon we might have used.
Keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep sharing your experiences. Your voices matter, and your stories can make a difference.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into maternity care in the UK. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay empowered.
Thank you for listening to the Inquests and Inquiries podcast. Remember, you can find more information on the website, inquestsandinquiries.com, or on the YouTube channel as well. Link in the notes.